in terms of like what changed for me was that as I acquired more wealth, I started to acquire more things. As I acquired more things, I realized that I had to take care of all of these things. And all of these things actually caused me relative forms of anxiety. If the boat wasn't properly taken care of, or the Can-Ams and the motorcycles weren't, whatever, right, was going on. And once in the moment that it switched for me, that said, actually, what I'm really about is doing exactly what I want all of the time and enjoying as much like peace as possible while I'm doing it, so I can enjoy it. The moment I stop doing that and I just say, what do I really want? And I'm like, oh, well, all I really want is actually just to read a book, go out and go on a hike. Nobody's going to think you're cool. Yeah, but it doesn't matter to me anymore. Because actually I'm much more about like, am I peaceful doing exactly what it is I want versus trying to get something by doing something and somebody seeing me do it. And she kept asking me, what do you want? And I was like, all I want to figure out how to do is love myself, love others, and be at peace. That's all I want to know how to do.
Welcome, millionaires and future millionaires. You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, a show where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their portfolio allocation. Now to your host, Jace Mattinson.
Welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. This is episode number 353. Stace, how's it going?
Hey, it's basically another holiday. Happy tax day.
It is tax day. And for the first time in I don't know how long, we actually are filing on time. Got all the K1s in and didn't have to file an extension.
Congratulations to us on that. And also, I find it interesting that most people are very excited about getting their tax returns, getting their tax refunds, but you actually hate getting a tax refund.
Yeah, basically all that means to me is the IRS borrowed my money and is not paying me interest on it for the year.
So I hope you all filed your taxes and are not getting a refund.
No, actually, it's probably likely that most people are getting refunds, but and then after that, you start seeing the spending and all the marketing that goes around everybody getting their refunds back. But yeah, anyway, happy tax day. And hope everybody's enjoying that. I guess we also just had a crazy weekend of the Masters, which is amazing. Scotty Scheffler won it again. We got to get him on the podcast. Somebody professional golf on the podcast. Or in the golf world. That would be cool. I don't think we've had anybody on the podcast that is a golf professional, whether they play, whether they coach, whether they announce, whether they, I don't know, turf management, something. I feel like, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if this call out gets somebody involved. But I feel like it's such a massive industry that whether you own golf courses, whether you're in golf course management or something, country club management, anything related to golf or country club sports, we should get somebody on the podcast because there's a lot of them out there. In fact, I just saw, I think it was the caddy, Scotty Scheffler's caddy this year, probably pulled in a cool 7 figures already. So yeah, if he were actually playing, he'd be like in the top 50 or something of tour players. So that's pretty crazy. But yeah, if you'd like to be on the show, send us an email, millionairesunveiled@gmail.com. Always looking for new great guests. And today we actually have a special guest, returning guest. It was almost 5 years ago to the day that his first episode, or I guess, yeah, his initial episode with us was released. It was episode 76. At the time, he was worth between about 6 and 7 million. And he's come back on the show, and he is now worth a little over 10 million. So excited to have Scott back on the show, give us a little update. And it's crazy because at the time we did that first interview, he had this big, crazy, audacious goal to be worth $100+ million. And I don't know that that's necessarily not his goal, but you'll see the mindset has drastically shifted with him, especially if you go listen 76 or episode 76 and then listen to today. But most of his wealth is in his business and then in real estate. And his business, he's an attorney essentially by trade, an asset protection attorney, and that's what he does. And that's what his business does. And it's gonna be a great episode. He also has quite a bit in kind of some older alternative assets. So very little, if any, in the stock market. And he is real estate, business, and crypto through and through. And going to be a great episode. I was lucky enough to spend some time with Scott more recently and recorded this episode. So super excited for that. And Without any further delay, let's get right into the episode with Scott. Welcome to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast. Today on the show, we've got Scott. In fact, Scott's returning. He's a returning guest. We had him on before. Scott, you want to just give us a little about your background, a little update, I guess, in the last couple of years of what you've been up to?
Yeah. So thanks for having me on the show, Jace. I think what's important about my story is I'm a business owner. I'm an attorney. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a real estate investor, and now I do all kinds of investing. And I've been really obsessed since the time, I think even from like the time I was like in middle school with this question of like, what was the best life I could have, right? And that's really guided my evolution here in the last 2 years in particular. It led me to build businesses, acquire, wealth into the 8 figures. And but only here in like the last 2 years, Jace, is where I found something to me that's actually been much more important about wealth. I found that I could actually have a bunch of money. I could be in the nicest places, and my mind still would be on stuff that would cause me like anxiety or take me out of enjoying the moment that I was in, no matter how beautiful the beach was, or no matter how beautiful the woman was in front of me, or how tasty the food was. And that's why I really got serious in the last 2 years, was thinking about spent a lot of time in Costa Rica, living with the Yawanao people in Acre, Brazil, sitting in lots of ceremonies, lots of time with monks, meditating, and getting to a place where now I feel like I've acquired like something that's much more important to me than any of the money that I built in my life ever could have been.
Holy cow, what an update. So we're going to get into all the details of this. You disclosed that you've hit the 8-figure mark from a dollar standpoint, but I guess probably the more important question to ask you, would you have been able to kind of quantify your wealth, say, a few years ago, and then where that's gone today in terms of like the way you think about your lifestyle and kind of the journey you've been on?
Yeah. So I actually spend my wealth is probably about doubled, and from last time we talked, I think it was like a little, maybe over 5, right? My wealth has doubled in the meantime since the last time we spoke. And now I actually spend drastically less money. So it's when in terms of like what changed for me was that as I acquired more wealth, I started to acquire more things. As I acquired more things, I realized that I had to take care of all of these things. And all of these things actually caused me relative forms of anxiety. If the boat wasn't properly taken care of, or the Can-Ams and the motorcycles weren't, whatever, right, was going on. And once in the moment that it switched for me, that said, actually, what I'm really about is doing exactly what I want all of the time and enjoying as much like peace as possible while I'm doing it. So I can enjoy it. Because when I'm peaceful, I'm actually enjoying what I'm doing the most. Then all of a sudden I found out that I was like, well, owning all of this stuff is actually not right. And in fact, all these places that crazy things I'm trying to travel to, whatever experiences I'm supposed to have, that I'm trying to post online, so that way other people will think I'm super cool, that I'm doing cool stuff. The moment I stop doing that and I just say, what do I really want? And I'm like, oh, well, all I really want is actually just to read a book, go out and go on a hike. Nobody's going to think you're cool. Yeah, but it doesn't matter to me anymore. Because actually I'm much more about like, am I peaceful doing exactly what it is I want versus trying to get something by doing something and somebody seeing me do it.
Interesting. So I guess, would it be fair to say that you previously, from a lifestyle standpoint, I'm going to use numbers just to kind of quantify it, but was it more of like, hey, you had this millionaire lifestyle of like all these things that were great, but now you're really in a $1 billion lifestyle?
I think
and you've moved to kind of like a billionaire lifestyle where it's like, hey, I have absolutely everything I've ever wanted in life at this point, where previously maybe you didn't.
Close, but not quite. It's actually beyond a billionaire lifestyle. The billionaires, the best they've been able to figure out from all the ones that I've looked at, have figured out that it takes them somewhere around 20-ish hours a week to manage their wealth. Between all of the meetings they have to take, emails they read, They're managing a family office. This is a team of professionals that manages all their wealth. And all the ones that I can meet spend about 20 hours a week having to do stuff that's related to money.
Wow.
That if you asked them, that you said, is that stuff that you actually really want to be doing? They'd say like, no, but I have to manage the money. And then that is actually the trap. And that's the difference. What takes you beyond a billionaire lifestyle is the moment that you can actually you can come to a place where you can say, I'm actually doing enough to be a proper care and steward of this money. And I'm actually okay with what the result is of what I've put here. And can I get to that level of peace of being attentive to it, but also being totally disconnected from it and letting it go. That's saying, great, I have money and I'm a great steward of money and I use money in the world to go be able to buy the things and move through the world the way I want to. And I'm also okay if all the money goes away. I'm going to do my best to be a good steward, but can I also realize that I'm actually totally okay if all the money goes away? And the closer you can get to that place, the closer you'll be beyond what the billionaires are experiencing.
And you're there.
Well,
or close.
I work on it. I'd say like every day I wake up and I'm probably not there. And then I sit and I work on my meditations and I work on the things that the teachers that I worked with taught me how. And it works into like a mindset and it works into like a practice. That's why all these people always call it a practice, because it's just like playing basketball. And meditation is like running drills. That's all it is. And now you're in the game time of life and you're saying, can I rely on my drills to help me with the mindset to help me be able to better navigate the situation that I'm in? Because if I don't have that skill set that I've been practicing, then this thing, I'm not going to be able to handle it well. And my experience will be anxiety, suffering, fear, panic, depression, whatever.
Super interesting because you're in your 30s, early 30s,
38.
late 30s. So you go through this journey of life. You've built up a substantial net worth from a investment and dollar standpoint, but at a pretty young age. I mean, I think you've hit the nail on the head in a lot of respects. From my even own experience of getting to that point where you kind of can be at peace with almost everything in your life. I mean, I had a client who was a true billionaire on paper a while back, and at one point, we're looking through and helping him with stuff, and he was spending 80% of his money, his income, and 80% of his time managing all of these properties that he had, and he wasn't even spending any time at these properties, but maybe a week or two a year, and all the logistics around that. And he finally sat down. He's like, this is stupid, isn't it? I'm like, dude, it's your life, your money. Like, I mean, if it were me, probably I would say so. But like, that's in some people's life, that's the dream, is to be able to have a private jet, fly to 5 different properties, go in the, instant of whatever they want to go. But he, in his late 60s was like, this is stupid. I'm selling all this stuff. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll just Airbnb it. And I want the least amount of stress possible, and you at 38 have already figured that out, it sounds like.
Well, I'd say that I don't have it figured out. I'd say that I'm constantly having to work on it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Right? I'm constantly in this place because my natural tendency is just same as it was before, which is, oh, it'll be cool to have all this stuff, right? And you can insert that with toys, girlfriends, trips, prestige, notoriety, popularity, whatever that is. And the issue is that what I find in my life, and this may be true for you, Jace. I don't know if you have anything that pops up for you that's around that's being true for you. But in my life, the moment that I start getting really desirous about something that's like that, I'll go and I'll get it. In your Billionaire's Friends example, it was actually a property, right? And now I have it. And now I have me plus this other thing. But after I caught that thing, did I really want it anymore? No, but I had it. And I think this is what happens to us. So we spent most of our lives saying, I don't totally feel okay on the inside. So what I'm going to do is go do a bunch of stuff, buy a bunch of stuff, accumulate a bunch of stuff, sleep with a bunch of people. And we keep accumulating more of this stuff. And we never actually get to the place where we feel okay inside. And now we have a bunch of stuff. And the question becomes is, when is it ever going to stop? When has it ever stopped? Or does the goalpost always just move?
That's interesting. So as you've gone on this journey the last couple of years, I mean, was this something intentional that you sought out? Was it a book you read, somebody you met that, started you down this path to go to Brazil? And I mean, kind of walk us through how this journey kind of started and is continuing.
Actually, yeah, I went through the worst breakup of my life. The woman I thought I was going to marry. And I had moved her from Minnesota and got her stationed out here in my house. And I had the whole thing, man. I was about to have it all, bro. I had the business. I had the money. I had my health. I had 2 different houses, huge houses, boats, trucks, Can-Ams, motorcycles, canyoneering gear, rad group of friends. And I was like, perfect. I locked down the wife. I locked down the kids. I hit the whole package. Objectively, I'm the greatest man alive. But as it turns out, in the humor of it all, like that relationship ended up ending after like 2 years, and I was absolutely freaking crushed. And I was the one that ended the relationship because I was like, I know this isn't right. I know this is not right. I got to stop it, you know? And so I was in such bad shape for so long with the coach that I was working with. And she kept asking me, what do you want? And I was like, all I want to figure out how to do is love myself, love others, and be at peace. That's all I want to know how to do. I can't get there. I'm doing all the stuff. I'm doing the meditation. I'm reading the books. I'm, doing the journaling. I'm going to workouts. I'm surrounding myself with positively minded people. I'm literally doing all of the things, which is, and before in my life, which is how I got everywhere I wanted to be, was being really good at doing stuff and being accountable. And she's like, well, check out these ayahuasca retreats in Costa Rica. These are some people that went down there. So I read this book called Living Untethered, which is by Michael Singer, which is by far the best book I've ever read. I mean, I might have read that book like literally 30 times because it gave me such a clear framework of somebody else who was basically a yogi hippie and built $1 billion software company. And I was like, that sounds like my boy, the guy who like knows about real life in business and here is like a mindset that allows you to be at peace, like while you do it. And I went down there and I worked with some people, and that's what it was, dude. It took like the most painful thing in my life to get introduced to, here's something you're going to do. And I was like, all right, it's in 2 weeks. I bet I'm in. Cause I was like, I'll do anything to be able to move through what I was going through at that time. And that's what led me to it.
So, when you go do this stuff, how long are you gone for?
It's like a week,
Okay.
So you're gone for like a week. You still have your cell phone with you. This stuff is like at retreats and resorts, this group called One Heart is the one that I went with. They're awesome. They're like the Mercedes of what it is. And then a lot of times what I did is I stayed like in Costa Rica for like another month afterwards and just worked remote. And I was like, stayed right next to the beach and just had more time to kind of like integrate from the experience and do all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, you can be like gone for a week. I'd say probably take like another week off, to be like slowly getting back into like normal life. And then you're good to go.
Do you wish you would have done something like that sooner in your life?
I've come to believe that everybody just has a time, and when it's their time, it's their time. Like people ask me like, hey, should I go sit with plant medicine? Whatever. And I'm like, there's no way I can know that. You'll know that when it's your time, you'll have the unshakable determination that that's the right thing for you to go do. And then you'll go do it. And that could be plant medicine stuff. It could be meditation. It could be whatever your time, happens to be. Of course, I wish I would have been able to have a better mindset in life. I probably would have lost a lot of suffering. I would have been able to avoid a ton of mistakes. Of course. And I also believe that I actually needed all of those mistakes for some reason. That all of those mistakes actually were perfect because they formed me to be the person that I am. And the person that I am is exactly who I need to be.
I guess now, is this something that is part of kind of your annual kind of practice to go do one of these retreats, or was it a one-time thing? Now you've got the skill set and the mindset to kind of live like that daily, and you'll seek out other opportunities?
Yeah, I don't feel called to like sit with medicine at all anymore. It was like, cool. It was that time period, and then it was over. And then after that, what I did is I started studying CREA yoga, which is actually, it's a lineage from Yogananda. And it's actually the book that Steve Jobs passed out at his funeral. Not like the actual Steve Jobs, like, or his ghost or something, but he paid for everybody that came to his funeral to get a copy of this book called Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahamsa Yogananda. So that got my attention that I was like, kind of like Michael Singer, billionaire software developer, started as a yogi. You got Steve Jobs there, started with nothing. And this is like, he's like, this is the mindset that will like help me build Apple, essentially, and it comes from this kind of thinking. So that's what I practice now. And it's like super simple, super easy. Doesn't take up much time. And it actually makes me, what I find is it actually makes me more effective and efficient throughout the day by multiples. Most of the stuff I'm doing, if I'm not doing it from the right place, actually causes me more problems I have to go clean up. So getting really good about how to come from the right place before I have a conversation, before I solve a problem, actually keeps me from having to do a ton more work. So now I feel like I'm 3 times as effective doing 1/3 of the work and living a 10 times better life.
So where does Scott go from here?
Man, if I can just, I love doing it. There's you, the experience of love and peace is not an endpoint. It's actually like a continuous deepening. And the practices of why all these funny dudes decided they would give up everything and go wear robes and go live into a place is because they figured this out, how to do this thing. And they're like, once you got that, you don't need anything else, baby, because you're feeling good. And all the stuff you were doing before was just trying to feel good. And you're like, I feel so freaking good. And so, like, that's what it becomes. It just becomes this place where it's like, cool, can I hold myself into discipline, and compassion for sometimes that I'm not as well? But can I hold myself into discipline to do the practices of just being able to work on the skills of controlling my mind and controlling my emotions, and knowing that if I do that, life becomes an ever deeper feeling of peacefulness, an ever deeper feeling of love and appreciation for it exactly the way it is, without anything needing to change or anything needing to be different. You just are able to love exactly what is more, which includes the people in your life, yourself, your business, your house, your car, the grass, the sun, the food you eat. Like everything levels up in terms of the experience. And so to me, what I'm most grateful for, is that there's finally a game that's an infinite game, and that the more I play this game, the better life gets. Because it sure wasn't that way with money, but I found it.
Let's switch gears here just a little bit, because I do want to talk about kind of your career a little bit, and I think this
Yeah.
is important because you've reached a level of wealth. You're telling us that you spend less money, you're happier, you have this new game that you're playing, which is really interesting. But I want to ask, has your asset allocation changed over this period of time from a money standpoint, or is everything kind of still in line, investing in real estate, business, etc.?
Yeah, no. So I have Royal Legal Solutions, which is active income from business, right? So like if you do a one sheet to be able to figure out your financial freedom, that's your very top number. It's going to be your best number. It's where the times when I'm like, hey, I want to make more money. That's my most dollar productive hour that I can do, is inside of one or other active businesses. My asset allocation otherwise though has changed quite a bit. So I used to be just really heavy in real estate and had a diversified just real estate portfolio. Now I'm actually looking, I'm doing stuff that's like algorithmic and AI traded, like Forex. That those types of things can pay you somewhere between 36 to 80% a year. It's like it's not going to be, it's like somewhat riskier, right? So it's good to just have like that as a portion of your like high performing cash flow part of your portfolio. In my opinion, I hold a lot of equities inside of crypto. So because it's a space that I follow and I find it just naturally interesting to be inside of a crypto space. I also think that the huge fortunes are going to get made in crypto during the next bull run, which should happen sometime within the next 6 months to 3 years. A big enough time span there. Good, but I also have a lot of real estate. But the real estate that I keep is typically like self-storage units or apartments, things that I'm getting huge bonus depreciation on. And the main reason I have those is for tax benefits, because the real estate as a blended ROI gives me somewhere around a 50% return. My algo traded stuff will give me about an 80% annualized return, and 100% liquidity. And then my crypto stuff, if I manage it right, there's a potential like a 10 or 20x, like what those equities are inside of the next, 3 years or so. At least that's the way I see the world.
Yeah. So I guess from an active to passive income mindset, I mean, are you taking 20% allocating to crypto, 50% reinvesting in your business, and then the rest in real estate? Or kind of how do you think about that from a dollar standpoint of reinvesting in your business versus taking chips off and putting in some of these other asset classes?
Yeah, so my business in particular, the main people that we're helping right now are people that are like, if they make over $150,000 in household income, and typically it's how to save money on tax with your investing and using advanced tax shelters like private foundations and stuff like that, right? The big booms for a business like mine, it's typically during when assets like real estate are becoming super trendy and popular again, right? So it's going to be a minute. And the reason I go into that whole story going to be a minute until interest rates fall back down, until we have another, the big run at people getting into real estate, I think, is that my business actually only returns for me somewhere on like a 35-ish% net profit for every dollar that I put in, right? If looking at my P&L, right, my algo traded fund stuff is 80%. If I try to scale my business, I typically have to scale personnel. And the more that I have to scale personnel, the worse my life gets, because typically that's more people's stuff that I then have to go manage, right? Just because inherently this happens with more people. So if the business is like what you have, I would say that your frame of reference may be one of these things where you should say, can I max out my business having like a team of people that I feel is like quote unquote easy, right? You're probably going to be doing just about as good in your business as you would otherwise take the extra free capital that you have and then just make some decisions on like how quickly do you want to be financially free. If you want to be quicker there, faster, I don't know anything else that's better than real estate investing in terms of saying like if it's your very first financial freedom hurdle. After that, all of your investing is just about lifestyle, right? Or just that you just enjoy investing. But I would say for anybody that's not at financial freedom, take your business, push it into your real estate, make your 30 to 50% returns on that money, get to your financial freedom number as fast as you possibly can, and then reevaluate what the heck you're doing with your life.
Is there ever a point for you personally that you would sell your business because you're doing so well in some of these other asset classes and you get rid of having to manage people?
Well, I know I did say that, right? I was like, it's worse your life gets the more people you have in it. And I was trying to be a little tongue in cheek. My business is like interesting because I built my business because I'm very curious about financial freedom, right? Not only is it my own personal team, these are the people that I actually use to manage my wealth. I'm actually really curious about this question because my theory is until people can get out of a survival mentality, like I have to work for money as a survival mentality, what you're really saying is if I don't work, I'm going to be on the streets and starve, right? So until you're actually free from that, you can't actually get to the questions that are like typically about like how great can life really be? Because you're just trying to survive. So to me, like the company is an extension of like a curiosity I have, which is like, well, how fast and how quickly can we actually get people financially free in a way that's durable? And then from there, how quickly can we get them to awaken to the possibility that life can actually be so much more than it's ever been for them? And in this way, like I was like, oh, cool, this is a pretty neat life accelerator, financial freedom, and then happiness.
Interesting. And really, you founded this business as a asset protection company, right? I mean,
well, that's what I was doing
really where
first.
it started, right?
I was buying real estate, and then I had a friend who lost $3 million from a lawsuit in real estate, and he like was one of the guys that was like just do umbrella insurance policies. And so I was like, holy smokes, I got to do something about my own asset protection. And so I started studying that and hitting people up about that. And then so I was like, oh, cool. I figured out these pretty cool asset protection schemes with series LLCs, trusts, and learned everything about that. And then people were like, well, can you help me set up mine? So my law firm is totally by accident. It's only been developed because I've run into problems in life and then said, okay, what am I going to do about that? And I solved that problem, team, systems, process. Like, cool, part of my life is solved. And then I was like, all right, if you guys want to give me some money, I'll let you use what I did for me, which seems to be pretty effective.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I guess with working with all of these high net worth clients and working in the asset protection space, I mean, what are the one main 2 or 3 takeaways that you would throw out there that you've learned from, solving all of these problems and running this firm?
The most actually important thing is actually to be really clear on what it is you want. That's actually the hardest question. The reality is none of this stuff is actually that hard. It just takes some experience and having done it a few times. And most people don't realize that they're actually in the game building wealth is that they're trying to be the CEO of a wealth building company that they're actually building. And the reason they're like, why is wealth so hard? I was like, because you've never actually started and owned a business, but you're trying to, right? And you have a legal division and a tax division and succession planning, and you got like assets, which is whatever your product or service is going to be. In this case, it just happens to be assets. And, it's all the same stuff, right? And so people run into that problem. So that's where, most people know you should have LLCs in place. They know they should have a living trust for their estate plan. They know that if their CPA is not breaking out their taxes in a spreadsheet to show them, like, here's the deductions, here's the tax shelters, here's the bonus depreciation we're getting either from your oil and gas or green energy investments to be able to save you on your W-2 income or your real estate and real estate professional designation, and not charting all that out into a spreadsheet for you. They're not really as tax strategists. You're leaving a bunch of money on the table for tax. And people also, at higher net worth level of the game are always looking at their portfolio as blended returns. They're not looking at just what's the cash flow and net worth of the investment. They're also looking what's the depreciation benefits and how's that going to give them a blended return with the tax savings. And so to optimize their portfolio in that way, right? So there's a right place, I think, for everybody to start. And typically the right place is with asset protection. It's getting all the assets out of your personal name. If you get into a single lawsuit, they take everything you own if it's in your personal name. And then after that, it's just levels of sophistication and building out this wealth building company. And that's all my company does is say, cool, we have systems, processes, teams, and strategies. We can build you a company inside of 6 weeks and let you use our team in a fractionalized way to be able to run your wealth if you want. Or you can watch our free videos and you can figure out how to do it on your own. But you should do it because life is better when you're wealthy.
What are usually one of the main, I don't know, one or two things that people, as they scale their wealth from 7 to 8 figures in particular, miss, or are the most important things to make sure that you have on your radar when you go from those 7 to 8 figure mark?
The biggest things start to be, one, you want to start using, private foundations pretty early on. Private foundations lets you take 30% of your total income, regardless of how much it is, and put it into a tax-free shelter that you can grow like a super IRA. So at some point, you're going to have enough cash flow to support your lifestyle. And then after you have that, then you should be thinking the way to accelerate your net worth number, which is really your like financial safety number, because the higher your net worth, the lower return you need to actually hit what cash flow you need to live off of for the freedom that you're looking for. That's when you want to start using things like your private foundations, because private foundations grow like a super IRA, but you can take money out of it. And when you take money out of it, you don't pay any penalty on it. You do pay tax on it at that time because now it's income to you, right? But you're a director of the private foundation to do that. So definitely should be using private foundations, and you should be investing inside of CFO-level services. Like your wealth and the number of syndications that you have, the number of investments that you're involved in, I can guarantee you actually don't know what your numbers are because you have too much going on and it's too much work to be able to manage that. So you will greatly increase the effectiveness of your portfolio if you have somebody who has some CFO level capabilities to be able to produce the spreadsheets, crunch and update the numbers for you to stay on top of your wealth. It's a major driver. Like you're talking about like probably a difference of like 25% better portfolio performance. If you're at a 10%, pretty easy to go to 12 or 13% on some larger portfolios. Like it's massive. And it's just because of information. Information becomes hard the more complex it gets, because most of us were really good at running our businesses and buying stuff, buying good assets. What do we not like doing? Whole bunch of paperwork and management. Most of us that are entrepreneur asset type people.
All right, Scott, let's wrap up with some rapid fire questions. And some of these have changed probably since the first time around. So, but I'd love to hear some of your answers on even some of the same ones. What's the most expensive meal out that you've had?
Oh man, it was like 10 grand at a steakhouse, and it wasn't even that many of us.
Oh yeah,
it was amazing. Yeah,
was that a credit card roulette? Scott got picked or what?
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's the credit card roulette. I always lose. I actually have to say, I don't say a prayer that I don't get picked. I pray for the patience that comes when I will get picked.
Oh man, that's awesome.
How is this happening to me again? So I think it's like a sign from God that I'm not generous enough. And it's like, well, we'll just force you to be generous when you go out to dinner with these boys.
I think you paid it for a couple of mine. I can't remember for sure, but thank you for that.
My pleasure. Yeah, anytime. Yeah, actually.
Dude, I don't know if you remember. There's one time, I think you were there, man. There was like 16 of us, and it was like they kept picking the ones out that weren't going to get drawn, and so the last one in there was the one instead of the other. Usually the other way. It's
That's
that
so
drew
much
things out.
worse.
Yeah,
That's so much worse.
yeah, man. It was intense.
That's
16. I
fun,
don't
though.
remember what the bill was either. I just remember mine was like pulled out like number 9 or something.
Dude,
So it wasn't
nice.
me.
Yeah.
What's the best experience that you've had so far?
Like in life, like totality. Wow.
Totality.
Yeah, man. I think the very best experience I've ever had actually was the first time I was in the jungle, and it was right after I learned how to be able to sit and with no mind, which means like your mind actually totally stops. And it's the first time that I think I actually like heard all of the sounds of the jungle, and it was crazy, because most of the time I'm like thinking about the sounds I'm hearing. And this was actually like just hearing without any thinking going on. And I know like that might not make any sense, but like it's a much more intense experience because it's not like filtered. I would say either that or the some of that good old Texas barbecue. I can't get enough of that.
What's your favorite barbecue joint?
Dude, I don't know. I'm such a square at that. Like I like Salt Lick. Like
All right.
I'll eat like Salt Lick like any day of the week. Like brisket there, I just absolutely die for it. And especially like extra wet as possible.
The one in Driftwood, or you go to any of them?
Oh yeah. I mean the one in Driftwood's like pretty special, right? You get to play
Yeah,
bocce
yeah.
ball.
Yeah.
Like everybody's there with their families and their dogs and everything. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's the only barbecue joint I know people will fly their helicopters into, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah.
It is. What about the bucket list experience that you're looking forward to that you haven't had yet?
Oh man, you know what I thought would be really fun to do is go out to there's these courses that are called NOLS, NOLS. And what NOLS does is like they're an outdoor adventure school. Like you get like a degree in outdoor adventure. So like they actually have these courses that are like 3 months long where you can go to Patagonia for 3 months and then like basically study in like a small group with a teacher, like everything about like mountaineering in the mountains, like how to like go through glaciers and like everything that's out there. So like I'm really like stoked on moving to this next phase when I can start like doing stuff that's like that. It's like that. They got like Baja fishing. They got tons of just awesome stuff that's like multi-month long, learning with experts, outdoors, having fun, and like pretty adventurous kinds of conditions. To me, sounds like the time of my life.
That's awesome. What was a key lesson you learned from childhood?
Yeah, I think one of the best lessons I learned was, I grew up like pushing lawnmowers and saving the money and not knowing what I was ever going to spend it on. I always did that. One time I was really little. But what that allowed me to do is that eventually like there was an opportunity that came for an auto repair shop, a commercial building and auto repair shop in Albany, New York during my second year of law school that we could buy for $10,000 and sell for about 15. But we bought it. We actually rehabbed the business in the building to flip it to graduate from law school without any debt, me and a partner. And I thought, if I wouldn't have been just saving money, not knowing what for all those years, I definitely wouldn't have felt comfortable or maybe even able to do that first deal, which got me invested in real estate, got me started in business. And so I think back to that, whatever it was that my mom taught me growing up, like you should be working, saving, don't spend money on stuff you don't need.
I'm cutting some grass. That's awesome. What was your first job?
Cutting that grass.
Cutting that grass?
7, pushing lawnmowers around in Texas heat. Neighbors all angry because they thought I was too young to be using the weed whacker, but I was like, whatever, And
And
then
what'd you
there would be all
make?
the Mexican dudes that would be rolling around with their trucks with all their fancy equipment. And then there's this 7-year-old just dying.
Oh, man.
They're like, dude, man, you know it when you get like the respect of like, I felt like respect from like my Mexican grass cutting brothers.
That's awesome.
They're like, all right, you get it, white guy or white
You remember
kid.
how much you made?
Oh, dude, I don't know. It was like maybe like $5 a yard.
Oh, wow.
So I was like making like $2 an hour.
Jeez.
Yeah. It was
Oh, that's
terrible.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. What's the most fun you've had with money?
Yeah. I mean, I really think that the thing that money opened up for me, that was most for me was actually like going and sitting down in like those ayahuasca ceremonies. Because part of it is they bring in just incredible like musicians and incredible like coaches and stuff that are like helping you and teaching you, like in ways like without like talking to you. They're like teaching you about how like you can use the music to help you relax, and like use breathing. And it's just setting with the stuff is so super important. And it was expensive. I think it was like $6,000 or $7,000 to go down there for a week and to do that. And so like to me, that's what I'm looking for now. I'm looking for like, what are these experiences that push me outside of my comfort zone that I might even be a little afraid to do? And can I spend money to get in with like the very best people that do that and be able to learn from them about like, what is this about? Why is this so important to you all?
That's cool. What's the craziest thing you've ever done to earn money?
I cage fought. I got paid $500.
Oh man, I knew I was going to get a good one out of Scott.
That's after I graduated my undergrad, man. I was
That's awesome.
I had a Spanish degree and I couldn't get a job. Like literally could. They're like, if you would have taken a business class, we'd hire you because like you're a great guy. But like you literally just took Spanish and graduated from undergrad as fast as possible. I was pretty sure this undergraduate degree was worthless.
Oh my goodness.
So what I did is I became like a tutor, tutoring these private school kids in high school and junior high. And then but I only could do that for like 5 hours a week, but it's barely enough money to make it. So but then I started training full time Muay Thai kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and eventually fought for money, like as on promotion,
So essentially a professional fighter.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but I wasn't very good. So professional is a big word to use. Yeah.
Hey, you got paid for it? You're professional, right? Professional entertainment.
Yeah. Professional
awesome.
Entertainer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. What are the last pieces of advice that you would give to somebody who's just starting out?
Just get around any way you possibly can, around the best people you possibly can. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing, man. I mean, it was I don't care if you got to lie, cheat, steal, sneak in, doesn't matter. Just find out who are the best people. Find out where they're hanging out, Maybe they're hanging out at conferences, maybe they're hanging out at social clubs, maybe they're hanging out at a lot of different places. And then go be around them. Listen to what they have to say. Do a lot of listening. Really carefully to exactly what they're saying to each other. And then only speak and ask questions when you really have thought through exactly what it is you want to say. And in this way is how you can build respect among people that are much further down the journey, whether it's a wealth journey, business building journey, spiritual journey, doesn't matter. Because most people aren't wise enough to listen until they actually are really confident that they have a good, really solid question that shows they've really given it a lot of good thinking. And if you do that, the other people that are there, those men and women that are there, then they know what a good question sounds like. And they respect a really good question. And they'll respect you if you know how to ask questions. So that would be my advice. Any way possible, go hang out with the best people. And if you do that protocol, you will find yourself pretty soon being with friends that you never thought you could ever get in friendships with.
What's a closely held belief that you once had that you recently changed your mind on?
I have a freaking clue about what's going on with people. I mean, I used to think that I really had a good idea of what's happening. And I'm taking a course right now with Elementum. It's like a 7-month life coaching course about how to become a life coach and coach other coaches. I'm not even going to coach. I just got like this thing that was like, cool, I'm going to take this coaching course now. I'm learning from Preston, who's one of the foremost, life coaches, business coaches in the world. Preston Smile. And what I've learned is that all the judgments or things that I thought about that I could know about what other people were thinking or doing or why they were doing what they were doing, in the world, I really had no idea. Not after I really started to sit with people and really dig into like the complexity of what's really happening with people. So now now my belief is everybody's doing exactly what they need to be doing. And my job is just to love them exactly as they are, because I don't have a clue about like what's going on like with them. And I know the one thing that can help them all the time is that if somebody loves them. And I know the best I can feel is if I'm loving other people. So I'm just going to try to do that as much as I can.
Awesome. Where can people find you or get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Scott Loves Life. If you guys are on Instagram and just want to see like funny stuff I'm either thinking about or doing or shenanigans, general shenanigans that I may be about somewhere in the world at any given moment. That's also where I post up whenever I'm hosting trips. So to be able to see, who might want to come out and like go ice climbing in Ouray or something like that. And but I'm always trying to expand, who are the cool people that are coming out. Or my business website is royallegalsolutions.com for like anything asset protection, estate planning, tax, insurance, investing, related type stuff. That's where you go check that out. How to become the CEO of your own wealth building company in 6 weeks and have a team, systems, and processes to support you in doing that. That's what we do.
Awesome. Scott with a net worth of 8+ figures. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah. Thanks, man. It's great to be here, Jason.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website, millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.